Greetings, everyone. Hi, I appreciate Tanya and Traders Talk Live for inviting us. My name is Gary R. Albrecht. I'm the founder and CEO of Gpa Trading Services. I'm also the mastermind and creator behind the Market Price Anticipator Premium Edition software, and I'm also the educator and instructor. A brief bio: I've been a professional trader for 20 plus years. I've been a technical expert. Even my peers consider me a technical analysis expert. Again, I'm a creator of one-of-a-kind custom trading software. I founded Gpa Trading Services over 8 years ago. I've been educating thousands of students around the world. We've conducted numerous live events, speaking engagements, platinum program. We offer one-on-one coaching and mentorships as well. If you haven't had a chance to stop by and visit our website, this is a screenshot. We welcome you to peruse our website at your earliest convenience. Now, today's topic is going to be a fun one. I know this is the last topic of the day, so we hope to give you a big send-off. And this is analyzing the markets from a multi-time frame perspective. A brief disclaimer: I'm not going to read all the disclaimer, but I'd like to point out a couple of highlighted points. Trading is not suitable for all people. Some markets are leveraged, and therefore it is possible to lose money deposited for a position. Persons should only use funds that they can afford to lose, that fits within their overall financial plan as developed by a qualified financial planner. We recommend you never risk more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options traders, we recommend you never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And most importantly, you should always adhere to strict, proper money management. And finally, all information in this presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as investment advice, nor as recommendation or endorsement to buy or sell any specific investment. Basically, trade at your own risk. Now, key components in anticipating future market conditions. Everyone knows about the importance of support and resistance. The trend direction, and here's some key points. Utilizing the multiple time frames, and the key is to align those time frames before entering a position. And here's the magic: understanding how the lower time frames cycle within the larger time frame, as we like to refer to it as the hook and cross line of progression. Now let's define what the hook and cross line of progression is. First, aligning the time frames. What does that mean? As you can see here, we have a monthly on gold that was turning over as gold gave us a nice big drop. Gold is on the way up, and we'll discuss that in a moment, but it's about to do another major drop, and I'll show you shortly. But what we're talking about aligning is, you notice the monthly aligned here with the price action indicator and the trend momentums, an overbought territory turning over, and we call this the PAI hook and a trend momentum cross. That's what's called the hook and cross pattern. Now the strategy shows that once it's aligned, then it dictates how the next lower time frame is going to operate and perform. So when you get a PAI hook on a monthly, it means we already have a hook and a cross on the weekly. And as it continues to hook and cross, it's a statement that says this monthly is going to force the weekly to go all the way to oversold. So if you're in the position and it's early on when the weekly's just starting to turn, you come back to your monthly and say, wow, I got a hook and a cross down. So I know I can be in this position week after week after week after week after week after week until the position actually gets into oversold territory. Well, notice the uniqueness of our software, that not only does it continue to stay in alignment, but the behavior we call signs and symptoms occur on the daily. And the daily is projected to continue to not only flow in what we call the SlingShot phenomenon. It'll depressurize to SlingShot lower, depressurize to SlingShot lower, depressurize to SlingShot lower, and this behavior continues while the weekly cycles. And as the monthly continues to cycle, the weekly starts to slingshot, and you'll see that on every time frame. So basically you can anticipate future market conditions in advance, well in advance. Now let's look at another example as it continues to slingshot. Here's one of oil, and you'll notice here we had topping and rolling of the weekly time frame. This is where we get the PAI hook and trend momentum cross. Well, here's a unique concept. The software is programmed that it would not hook here unless the daily had already had a hook and a cross moving lower. And as it continues to hook and cross, it gives an inevitable sign that not only is the daily going to go from overbought to oversold, but it's going to continue with this slingshot phenomenon over and over and over and over until that weekly finished the down cycle. And again, we had a monthly previously that showed the monthly was also down, so we knew the weekly must go to oversold, and you could see it even slingshotted a few more times, getting a new low before then it reversed. So this is very unique, and I'm going to continue to expand on that, why it's so important, because it tells traders, whether you're a scalper, a day trader, investment trader, how long should I be in that position? When should I really start taking profits? Because what will happen in most cases, you'll see, oh, well, I got a nice little gain and it's starting to go against me. Let me close it. And then you allow price to continue to go down, 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 down. Well, as long as the weekly continues down and the monthly continues down, you expect this to keep slingshotting. So what this does for you is it allows you, in this case, to sell the rally in the downtrend and tells you exactly when to sell it when that slingshot formation forms. Now, here's an example of a currency pair. Same scenario. You'll notice the pound dollar started to reverse with the monthly hook. Once you get the monthly to hook, you would not have any idea, is this going to go up and slingshot lower? Is it going to go up, start to make new highs? Well, the key here is remember what I just said. You will not get the PAI to hook unless you already have a hook and a cross on the lower time frame. And once we continue this process, as it continued to push, notice on this one, we had the hook and a cross. So what does that mean? It means the next lower time frame, in this case, the daily, would finish the upcycle. So as I would get in early, perhaps on a weekly hook, that means, well, should I be in it for a day, for a couple of weeks? What are you going to be in here for? You're going to stay in it until at least the daily finishes the upcycle. And notice early on when the daily first got the hook, early on, we started with the hook. The 4 hour already to the left of the chart here, which you can't see, already had the hook and cross pattern. But what it tells me is that in order for the daily to keep moving, the 4 hour must go from oversold to overbought, then slingshot higher and higher, because that's the only way the daily can make the cycle. Then if we have a monthly with a hook and a cross that later develops, then it means this weekly is going to give us weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks higher, which means this daily would not only have to go from oversold, but once it gets there, it's going to have to slingshot higher and higher, similar you see over here, in order for this weekly to finish the upcycle. So it is very unique, and it is extremely, extremely high probability outcomes. And we'll continue to show that. And this is just where, again, you get a hook and a cross on a monthly, or in this case, the weekly, then you know the daily is going to finish the upcycle. You catch it early, you get the daily to hook and cross, then you know the 4 hours are going to go all the way to overbought. And then once it does, it's going to slingshot higher, higher, and higher. And I'll show it with my big red cursor for more emphasis. Again, every time frame is the same. So let's review. You get a daily to hook, or in this case, we'll say the weekly to hook. Then the daily is going to go from oversold to overbought because it's oversold hooking up. Well, if we get a weekly in overbought territory that hooks down, then the daily is going to go from overbought to oversold. And during that process of moving from overbought to oversold, the 4 hour is going to go from overbought to oversold and slingshot lower and lower. In this example, we had the weekly hook. So the daily was going to go to overbought, and the only way the daily can go day after day after day after day after day after day, you see it's multiple days up, the 4 hour must go to overbought, and then you buy the dip, 4 hour slingshot, buy the dip, slingshot, buy the dip, slingshot. And that's the ideal time to scale into those positions. And it works on all time frame. So if you're a scalper, all you got to do is get a 15-minute to hook And then you know your 5 minutes going to go all the way to overbought. So I can be in it to at least 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40. Depends how long it takes the 5 minute to get up there. Isn't that awesome? If you got a 5 minute to hook, then you know the 1 minute's going to take as many minutes as it takes for it to cycle all the way to overbought. And then we got even more exciting news about the software. We have an automated system. Now let's go to the live charts to show you how it looks in real time. So as many have been saying, gold has been on an uptrend. You can see from our recorded classes that I talked about the bottoming of gold exactly when the bottoming process started. And that day, which was months ago, I gave a target of 1,300. And sure enough, it took its good old time to get up there, but it went like a nonstop missile, stair-stepping higher and higher and higher, straight to the 13. Then in our members, when I said, should I close my position, look to go short? I said, well, it's a scalp. It's definitely got another push. But here's where gold's going to have a major reversal coming. Whether you believe in Elliott wave or know anything about it, I believe extreme high success with Elliott wave, but my Elliott wave teachings is way different than everyone else's. It's based on my hook and cross patterns. So why do we believe we're going to get some limited upside and then it's going to turn back down, and it's either going to be about 100-point drop, or if it ends up being this B wave here and we go down in C wave, which I'm leaning more towards, then it should be over about a 300-point drop coming. Well, the question is this the end of the run yet? It's close. My next target is 1338, but the 1338 should not, and I don't expect gold's going to break 1366. So watch the big red cursor. We're going to see price stair step, and it's going to start to turn over and start stair stepping down. And I'm looking for at least a pullback of about 100 if it turns out it's this wave count to then go higher. Or if it turns out it's the big B coming down in this large C down here, then I'm expecting gold to revisit the 1046 level and a little lower before then it reverses and moves. Now, one thing is for sure, we're going to get a major market crash, whether it's 2019, 2020, 21. When the market crashes, gold and silver and commodities, because risk aversion is going to go soaring. So it depends. If we're going to have multiple years before we get the crash, then we're likely to see this develop. But if the markets start crashing sooner, then we're going to get this to develop. So just remember that gold and silver are going to skyrocket when the markets start imploding. And it's not if, it's just a matter of when. So back to the question, how do I know we're about to get a big reversal? Check out the alignment from the software. And that is our weekly, and I'll show you why I knew we got not only a trigger to go long when we started to bottom and reverse and hook. So I knew the daily would at least go to overbought. Then when it hooked and crossed and kept going, check out what the monthly did. The monthly did exactly what we needed it to do, and I called this in class. It turned back up, so we got a new hook and a new cross. And when the monthly hooks and crosses, what does that tell us? It tells us the weekly is going to go all the way to overbought. So notice as I go back to the weekly, we knew that this was going to continue week after week after week after week after week after week after week. And that's when price was down here months ago, I gave a target of 1,300, then 1,314, now 1,338. And the reason we believe we're going to have that major reversal coming is look where the weekly is located. It's in extreme conditions, overbought. Yes, it could still go a little higher, but eventually it's going to start to turn and hook. And the bias is it's not only going to turn and hook, but the trend momentum is going to cross, and we're going to end up with a weekly hook and a weekly cross down like we did over here. And what does that mean? If you're listening, that a weekly hook means I have a daily hooked and cross already down. And if my weekly continues with the hook and the trend momentum cross, then this daily is not only going to stop slingshotting higher. Notice what we said earlier, when you get a weekly that says, oh, my weekly is going to take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to cycle up. And what is the daily? What's the behavior? It goes from oversold to overbought. And then once it gets there, it must keep slingshotting higher and 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 higher. Well, guess what a slingshot is? It's the precursor to the hook and cross, But what is it? It's the lower time frame running from overbought to oversold that allows this daily to depressurize, as I like to call it. Then when the lower time frame 4-hour gets to oversold territory, it's going to turn and force the daily to engage up. Well, why did we expect the daily to keep slingshotting? You'll notice we keep telling you, keep buying the daily slingshot as long as the weekly's up. And then the tactic behind that is you allow the 4-hour to get to oversold territory, then you buy the PAI hook. So watch this magic. It is in every market, every time frame. So no matter you're a scalper, day trader, position trader, doesn't matter. As the daily started to depressurize and move to oversold, what did the 4-hour do? It went to oversold territory. So the 4-hour was in oversold territory, and we knew that based on the reversal, once the 4-hour started to turn and hook was a good time to get in. So yes, the 4-hour went up and engaged along the way, but we started with lows, highs, higher lows, higher highs, and the pullbacks represented what? The 4-hour is going to keep going until it gets to overbought, because we know that daily has to keep going. And once it does and my daily starts engaging, what's the 4-hour going to do? Go from oversold to overbought and then slingshot higher and higher, because that's the only way. See it? Slingshot higher and higher. So just as the daily was depressurizing to buy the dip in the uptrend, you allow the next lower time frame to go to oversold. How cool is that? So let's continue. So I want to do and give you several trade ideas. Yes, gold is about to get the big reversal, because once a 4-hour starts to turn and hook, as we're starting to see live right now, we're starting to see the 4-hour begin to turn and begin to hook. So what does that tell us about the 1-hour? Live action. The 1-hour already has a hook and a cross. Now, if you're in gold, I guarantee gold's going to go low. How can you guarantee? Because I've been trading this system. It's been developing and evolving for over 20 years. And I've seen every market since that period, and there's never been a market condition this system doesn't guide you through. So right now, why do we feel we're going to still go lower? Because the 4-hour is starting to hook and cross, and once the 4-hour finally crosses in the next few minutes, when it gives the next 4-hour candle, this is going to go all the way to oversold. But for now, we already have the 1-hour hook and cross, and just like moving averages, which this is not, but just like moving averages, the steeper the slope and the more angle and separation, the stronger the trend. So this is a nice hook, a nice cross, steep slope, angle separation. And that means the 30 is going to finish the down cycle. So guess what? This 30 is not finished. So even if it starts to turn a little bit, it's going to lower time frame, 5 minute, 15 starts to depressurize, but they're going to slingshot lower, so it allows the 30 to finish the down cycle. Just like when we got the 30 early on that hooked and cross, it meant the 15 was going to go all the way to oversold. What's the 15 doing? All the way to oversold. It's like magic, literally. So that's why you need to take your profits on gold. Yes, we might get one more rush because the weekly's not quite finished. It's still up. Yes, it's overbought, but the key is not only to be in overbought or oversold territory, but it's to hook. That's the key, because I know once this weekly hooks, then I know my daily is already hooked and crossed. And if it continues where the weekly hooks and crosses, then we know this gold downside stair-stepping affair is going to continue at least for multiple days, because the daily would have to finish the cycle. And this is what's key about cycling time frames. Price always stair steps. So whether you call it the ebb and flow of the markets or it's buyers battling sellers, it's still, no matter what the trend, the strongest of uptrends always stair step, because the time frames always cycle. Whether it's a downtrend, even in the strongest of downtrends, you do get days or weeks, depending on what's right here. Our little companion tells you what chart you're on, the time frame, current price, how long before the next candle, and whether you're up or down on that particular candle. So in this case, yes, we know once this weekly turns and hooks, we're going to at least get several days lower. If the weekly hooks and crosses, then we're going to get multiple days until the daily finishes that down cycle. So be prepared for gold to make a major reversal from within where we are, 1338, to as high as 1966. But I believe we're going to start struggling to get here, and within this purple box, or magenta shaded box, we're going to have that reversal to the downside on gold. So make a note of that and watch how gold stops going higher. And of course, if you join our service, you'll have the software telling you, yep, you got the hook, you got the cross, and then it'll allow you to continue to move lower. I haven't even talked about our automated trade management system. It's a built-in AI interface, which tells you, well, what if I don't want to do anything with gold and I just want it to enter short for me automatically when it gets the hook? Then you set the parameter on this trade management system and you say, okay, don't buy any green triggers, don't buy any slingshots higher, don't sell any slingshots lower. You just tell it true or false, and you leave the only parameter saying, okay, I'm going to sell the next hook and cross trigger. And this will stay for weeks. What if we go for 2, 3, 4 more weeks? Long as it's in the ready to trade mode, it's automatically going to enter the trade for you short. And I'll explain that more in a second. What's some other great trades you need to keep an eye on? Well, some currency pairs you want to keep an eye on is the pound yen. The pound yen is in a major new swing to the upside. And the reason is we're up over 194 in this pit where we scaled in, and I'm about to scale in again because our daily is now turning over to start to depressurize. So anyone remember what I said a moment ago? And I'm going to show you why. How did I know this daily would go from oversold towards overbought? And even if it tries to slingshot against you, it's going to fail, give you a low, a high, a higher low. Then when it fails, notice how it engages and disengages is our terminology. It means when it engaged from this swing point high and then disengaged from the swing point low, highest probability it's going to go back to the high and make a new high. It engaged again, disengaged. It goes back to the high and makes a new high. So now that the daily finished the cycle, why is this likely to turn and engage back up? Because not only is the weekly up, right? Weekly hook, weekly cross, which means, well, Gary, is this going to go all the way to overbought? Well, we just take a peek at the monthly, but we did know that the weekly hook and cross, which was days ago, actually weeks ago from this chart here on the weekly, we knew the daily would go day after 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 day higher. So why do I think this weekly is likely and very high probability going to finish the upcycle? Check out the monthly. The monthly is beginning its process. We do have the hook. We're waiting anxiously for the cross. And so as this continues to stair step and the daily turns over and slingshots higher, my weekly continues to push. It's forced so by the monthly pushing against it. And if I start to see this engage, not only hook here, but cross, then it means not only is it going to continue higher, but we're going to get what? Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it's just not when it says it's going to cycle, it's both the PAI and the trend momentum. The marriage of these two indicators, some people say it looks like an oscillator. Oscillators don't work in trending markets. Well, this is not your typical oscillator. Yes, the goal is to go from one extreme to the other, but it's a marriage made in heaven between the two. Because like I said, when it cycles up, the only way the higher time frame can cycle is the lower time frame must go from oversold to overbought and start slingshotting higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. Then we got the monthly to turn over, which we got the pullback. And what happened? The slingshot forced it to go down and slingshot lower and lower until recently we got the latest reversal. So it's like magic, no matter if you trade the higher time frames or again, you go down and fish at the 5 minute, 15 or 1 minute. It's the exact same principle and it works in all markets. So why should you continue with the pound-based pairs? A lot of the pound-based pairs all have weeklies, hooks and crosses, steep slope with angle and separation, and they all are starting to see the monthlies turning back up and very close to the cross, which means I anticipate it's not only going to continue to push higher, as look at the monthly, we're already up 530 pips for the month, as this is finishing this current month and we're moving, but this is moving and it should continue to push higher. And if we do get the cross, then it means this weekly is not only going to continue to finish. You say, well, Gary, that looks like it's overbought. Look at the trend momentum down here. It's barely halfway. So believe me, this is weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks further to go as price is going to continue to climb. So those currency traders, I would buy any of the pound-based currency pairs because they all have weekly hooks and crosses. They all have monthlies turning and turning back up, which is inevitably going to force all of these weeklies weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks further. All right, let's switch gears to some of the indices. Indices are in the same boat. Dow, S&P, Nasdaq, Russell, whatever you like to trade, even if you're from another country and you trade the FTSE. We track the FTSE with unbelievable accuracy. So let's switch up to the dollar S&P. S&P is breaking out. Yes, I called this bottom, and I said that based on the hook and cross pattern, not only is the S&P going to start to stair step, and not simply in a retracement and a reversal to a lower high, lower low, but in a lower high, lows, highs, higher lows, higher highs. And I gave a target months and months and months and months ago, long before this wave 3-4 correction. S&P is going to 3,000. Then my next target is 3,045. So you still have in the neighborhood of over 300 points left to go. And if you'd have been in our service months ago, you'd already be up about 400 points. So I know many traders out there, they literally die and go to heaven. Man, I got a point today. I got 2 points. When you align the hook and cross patterns, we don't make 1 point, 2 points. We make 10, 20, 50, 100, 400, 500 based on the time frame hook and cross pattern. So why is the S&P going to continue higher, and why do you think it's going to go back to 2950, break to 3,000 as you promised months and months and months back, and then going to go to 3045? Well, we're going to continue to watch the cycle and notice our cycle. The weekly is up very strongly, not only trigger to go long, hook and cross pattern. So this is where, when this was moving down, all I did is set this weeks in advance, and I let my system automatically enter the trade, and it does it for you. So whether you're at your computer or not, well, this has the hook and the cross, and it's got a very steep slope and a lot of angle and separation, trend momentum 1 and 2. So why does that mean it's going to continue to go higher? Check out the monthly. It's turning and slingshotting higher. It's already feeling the pressure. And what's ultimately going to happen, like it did before, it's going to slingshot and stay engaging month after month after month after month. So my trend momentum that was down is going to cross back up. And ultimately, we're going to go on and make another all-time new high. And I say it's definitely going to happen in 2019. I'm not expecting this to take 9, 10, 12, 15, 18 months to go back up here. We're going to continue with the weekly moving higher. My monthly's already starting to engage. And then this is going to flatten out like it did here, here, and everywhere else, and turn back up. And notice, when we call this market crash, we called the bottom. Imagine if you'd have got a hold of us back then, over a decade ago, and you could have been in this uptrend for the full time. Why? The monthly gave us a hook and a cross, so we knew we were going to be in that for weeks. The weekly kept slingshotting higher and higher till the monthly did. Then the monthly continues to slingshot higher and higher and higher. And notice every time we do that, what happens? My weekly goes all the way to oversold, then it goes back from oversold to overbought and forces the trend momentum to engage. What's happening right now in that latest pullback, our wave 3 to 4 pullback? Weekly went all the way to oversold because we had a monthly hook and a cross, so we knew the weekly was going to go down. Now the weekly reverse with the hook and cross, and bingo, there's your entry. And you keep going. So what's the next stop? As the weekly continues week after week after week after week, week after week after week, still finishing the up cycle, how do you scale in? You scale in via the daily slingshot. And you'll continue to buy daily slingshots until the weekly finishes the up cycle. And the 4-hour is where we look for the 4-hour to go all the way to oversold, which allows the daily to depressurize to form the slingshot. Then the 4-hour PAI hook turns and engages up, forcing the daily to engage. So notice again, I know I got lines on here, but I do instruction, in-depth instruction, 3 times a week, average about 2 to 2.5, 3 hours each day. Guaranteed 2, but we go way past that. So we have so much fun doing it. So as you can see, the 4-hour did bottom along that reversal, And then when it gets oversold and hooks, you buy it and gail in because the daily is going to engage up. You can anticipate that behavior. So what about just the S&P? Here's the Nasdaq, exactly the same thing. Nasdaq got our hook and cross pattern on the weekly. It's still going high. It's still strong, steep slope, angle separation. And it too has the monthly turning and starting to engage. That's a sign the weekly is going to continue to push. Other times it'll have the weekly pushing higher and the monthly will go, I'm not going to even think about turning. Then we know the weekly, when it bottoms, is going to slingshot lower. But because it is engaging up, this is going to end up turning in the coming weeks and months as we continue to stair step and the Nasdaq goes on to break all-time new highs yet again. And what about the Russell? It's on a different platform, but we got the Russell here. And I'll close this down. And the Russell is in the same boat. It has the weekly hook and cross, steep slope, angle separation. Exactly the same. Why? The monthly starting to turn and engage. It's like clockwork. So what's ultimately going to happen in the coming month? Month after month after month, as it engages, the trend momentum is going to flatten out and it's going to cross back up. And then it's going to go back into overbought territory as we go breaking new highs. FTSE, depends what you want to trade. Ask our student, Victoria is our student from London, and she just stops in every morning for me to do my FTSE review. She loves to trade the FTSE. And as this was pulling back, I told her live in class, Victoria, go long right now because the weekly's turned and hooked. And notice what else we know. This engage, disengage. Every time it goes up and engages down, then disengages where you see it turned and then disengaged. It engaged, disengaged. It's going to go back to the high and make a new high. And sure enough, day after day after day, it's going higher, and we're not quite to the new high. We're right at it, but it's expected to continue to go to 70.13, which is our retracement, followed by 50%. So why is it going to go higher? Because the monthly is starting to engage up. And why is the daily going to continue to push? Because we have a weekly hook and a cross, and check out the daily. The daily did exactly what it's supposed to, go from oversold to overbought, then turn over and slingshot higher. So as this continues over the next few days, look for it to go to 70.13. All right, that's just a little taste. So let's continue. And why are we here? Well, what about your trading results? Briefly, we'll go over some results. Here's a trade on gold that was traded through the automated trade system. And you'll notice we have a lot of different templates. If you don't like fractals and you don't like a lot of things on here, MACD, then you could trade with just simple trade and have no indicators. The trade management system will still enter it without all of this on there. But you'll notice I do have multiple different charts, and that's just for each person's particular preference. So not only did this work, but you notice it's over $126 move on gold. We just gave gold over $100 move higher, and there's an example that was live, and this is a previous one, over $150 move on gold lower, simply doing the exact same process. It's so simplistic. You think, how can something so simplistic work so well? Again, you get the hook and the cross pattern, and you know the lower time frames will follow through at the highest of highest probabilities. And that's what I always talk about, looking for signs and symptoms. And you continue. Here's a student of ours that used our system. He traded those signals and made over 8,600 pips and counting. Because the monthly was involved, he said, I still continue to let this run. I utilized it and let those winning trades continue, and it went from 8,000 to over 18,000 by utilizing the software and what we call our Slice of Heaven Finder, which is a scanner that finds all these trades for you. And here it is in this platform showing all of these trades added up, 18,311 pips. This is commonplace. Again, simple move, gold moving higher simply by buying the slingshots when you have the higher time frames in agreement. All right, here's a pound odd trade, 778 pips. Well, we knew that this was on the daily, that my weekly still was going, my monthly was going, so we knew that this would continue. So it continued to run to 1,274 pips. We weren't done there. It went on to 2,270 pips. Weren't done there because the time frames were still aligned. We carried it to 3,627 pips. Awesome. Here's the pound CAD, 3,073 pips. Pound yen, 3,215 pips. Breakout trade. This is during London session. We have a bracket, or call a breakout London session trade, where this system will automatically, at the close of the candle, the first hour of trading in London, it will give you a high and low, and then you can tell it either buy the dips in the downtrend or sell the rallies in an uptrend. And if you don't know, you can tell it, well, if it breaks the high, go long. If it breaks the low, go short. 100% customizable. And that little London breakout trade ran for 272 pips when it happened when I was asleep during London. System did it for me. Okay, what is the Master Trader program? It includes our Premium Edition software, plus it includes our live trade classes, which meets 3 times a week, average about 8 hours roughly per week of live instruction. In depth, every iota, I like to call paint the MPA Picasso, exactly what the software is going to do, how it's going to do it, when it's going to do it, and why it's going to do it, based on our signs and symptoms of the cycling time frames. Now, what's included in the software, which we didn't get a chance to cover? We have the scanner, we have the Slice of Heaven Finder. Those two seek out the next big trade. And it is customizable. If you're a scalper, you set it to the lower time frame. If you're a position trader, set it to the higher. Investment trader, set it to your monthly. SlingShot trade triggers we discussed, the trade management system you've briefly seen. There's a scalping system for Forex called the Platinum Asia scalping system. There's a Triple P scalping system, works in all markets. There's the breakout trade system I showed you a moment ago in that London breakout trade. And of course, we have a bracket trade system where you don't know which way it's going to go, or you know, hey, if it ever goes like the gentleman previously, Rob, said, if price gets up to that level, sell it. Then you put your bracket order up there and say, hey, price reaches there, I want you to sell. Or if it goes and reverses to the low where it was bouncing off of, then buy it. All customizable. Here's a picture of what the scanner looks like. At an overview, it gives you everything you need to know based on whatever symbols you're interested in. This is some stocks, Tesla, Nasdaq, silver, and it's customizable to put your symbol in here, and it tells you every time frame, direction of the trend, slingshot formation, trigger formations, everything you need to know. Slice of Heaven Finder, again, searches all symbols to look for in the market watch, to look for every possibility. And again, you can set it to a daily, a weekly, a monthly. So if you're a longer term trader, you put the higher time frame here. If you're a lower time trader, you put the lower time frame. And it tells you, hey, these are trades setting up. And all of these big trades were identified by the system. Again, gold showing we get the trade triggers. That's just the one I showed you already, but there they are. Give you triggers for longs, triggers for shorts, and we even give you triggers to take profits along the way. Here's the market scanner. This was a FTSE trade. We're up over 2,400 pips. Right, trade management system on the FTSE, sorry. It's the trade management system, but it includes all the information you need. Color-coded when you're short, it's red. It's green when you're long. It gives you all of the information showing your stop loss, take profit levels. And of course, at the very top, it gives you information. I have one lot remaining. I'm 2,400 pips up. I have 4,600 pips left to go to my last take profit, and my stop loss is in profit. So it does it automatically. Well, Gary, what happens when you place a trade and then price moves in your favor and it takes your profit one? It automatically moves your stop loss from at risk to no risk. So it's impossible to go from a winning trade to a losing trade. And the system is so smart, I couldn't even move the stop loss out of profit. Once it takes profit, it'll automatically force it back down and say, no, 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 it's a winning trade. I won't allow you to move it and make it into a possible losing trade. Now, top 10 reasons to go with Gpa Trading Services and our MPA software. Automatically calculates support and resistance. Automatically identifies the trend of each time frame. Automatically monitors and tracks time frame cycles. It provides entries, exits, and take profits based on our hook and cross pattern, trade triggers, slingshots, and profit triggers. It's set it in advance entry criteria, or it'll automatically manage the trade from start to finish. It fits any trading style. The dual scanners, the scanner and the Slice of Heaven Finder, sets up the next big trade. Works on over 800 symbols, including stocks, forex, futures, ETFs, commodities, cryptocurrencies, you name it. Consistently delivers low risk, high reward, high probability trades. Now, what's the day why we're here? We're offering a special promotion that we normally charge $3.99 a month for both the software and the class. Today's special, we're going to give it to you for $2.97 a month. And most services charge you $2.97 a month for just the live class or just the software. You're getting both for $2.97 a month. Unheard of deal. All you got to do is click on this link. So Tanya, if you'd post the link for us, we'd appreciate it. And as I'm closing, I'd like to say thank you for attending the webinar. We look forward to joining us. Remember, why is the market price anticipator software so good? Because it empowers you to read and anticipate price in any financial market, on time, in time, all the time. And the reason we have such a following is that we have been educating students from around the world since the inception of our company, and we're now proud to announce we've been trading and educating members from 125 countries around the world. So if your country flag is not on our world map, as soon as you join us, it'll appear. And then we'll have 126 countries. So in closing, I'd like to say that you have an opportunity, and I'll go back to this link just in case you have that. And let's spend the last couple of minutes on the software. On the software. And notice here's a position on the pound yen. We're up a couple of $100 that just recently took a trade on, and it's moving. And again, even with the pound here, this is one that just entered and we're up 9 because we know it's going to start to reverse and move higher because we have the hook and cross developing. See it? This is live time right now. This is not a screenshot. This is live. You can see it ticking. Price is moving. And we have a 4-hour hook and a 4-hour cross right there. See it? So what does that tell you? This trade is going to continue until at least this 1 hour continues to stair step and work its way to overbought. This is not finished, nor is the trend momentum. Look, they're barely halfway. So even though it's pulling back, it's the lower time frame going to slingshot higher, and this is going to go hour after hour after hour, hour after hour after hour, and watch how this plays out later today. It's going to continue to go higher, and we're going to continue to watch this price move on. So again, in closing, Tanya, I'd like to say thank you for your time and inviting us today, and everyone in attendance. I know you have opportunities to attend these type of programs, and we certainly appreciate you supporting and visiting our website. And I can assure you, you will not be left out in the cold if you join this service. We have world-class technical support. So if you're not familiar how to use and install the software, we have our technical support who actually do it for you. And we have world-class technical support and customer support. So with that, I'd like to say, as I always close my class, good day, good luck, God bless you, may the pips be with you, and I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor. And y'all have a nice weekend. Thanks, Tanya, for your time.